Osmic, Senate File 1824.
Did Senator Peterson get a hall pass?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Osmic.
Not sure how you want to approach I have two amendments I'd like to make and then.
Well, Senator
speak to
Osmic,
the
I
deal.
think what we'll do is just kind of explain your bill a little bit. We will have Mr. Mums go through it, the fiscal part of it, and then we'll work on the amendments. So if there's anything you'd like to open up with on your bill?
Sure. This is the Omnibus Energy and Utilities Bill. There are a number of change items. There is $740,000 above base for the biennium in the tails for the Commission on Deaf, Blind, and Hard of Hearing. This is actually funded by industry. It is not something that's general appropriation. It comes out of the fees that we pay. 4-year extension on the $500,000 annual assessment on utilities for 3 FTEs for ongoing regional and federal work for electricity and natural gas issuers, and that is at the governor's recommendation. And also $10 million transfer from the Renewable Developments Fund to the IRRB to retool Silicon Energy up on the Iron Range. The major policy provisions here, one is at the end of putting the bill together, Senator Weber's co-op muni bill was vetoed by the governor. This brings it back in. There are modifications to the solar energy standard for Otter Tail and Minnesota Power. That is Senator Engebretsen's bill. Extension of valid siting and routing permits for the Excelsior Energy Project. That's Senator Tomassoni's bill. A biomass power purchase agreement contract renegotiation with Xcel Energy and Laurentian. That's Senator Tomassoni, which we will discuss in an amendment that I have. VoIP, which is Senator Rude, which we also need to have a discussion regarding, as well as residential PACE for consumer protection, a task force established through Senator Pratt's bill. With that, members, I'd be happy to go through the financial portion. Those last items that I went through, those are the policy issues that are inside of the bill. And I would stand for further questions after we go, or I could certainly stand for questions now or after we go through the finance.
Thank you, Senator Osmic. We will wait until Mr. Mums goes through the spreadsheet, please. Mr. Mums.
Madam Chair and members, going through the appropriations on the spreadsheet, the total appropriations in the bill are $31.626 million for the biennium. That's found on line 115 of the spreadsheet. $26.302 million of that is from the general fund. $2.104 million is from the Petroleum Tank Release Cleanup Fund, and $3.22 million is from the Telecommunications Access Fund. 19.696 million of the total is to the Department of Commerce, and that total is shown on line 72. The Energy Resources Division receives an appropriation of $9.354 million. That's shown on line
Madam
29.
Excuse me, Mr. Mums. Senator Eaton.
This is the first time I'm seeing it. Can you slow down a little, please?
Thank you, Senator Eaton.
I can't follow.
I can't.
Mr. Mums.
Madam Chair and members, so the Energy Resources Division total is shown on line 29. The total is $9.354 million. This section of the spreadsheet also shows a $1 million revenue to the Special Revenue Fund for the biennium on line 25, and that can be found in Article 2, Section 9 of the bill, in which a assessment authority that was scheduled to sunset at the end of this fiscal year has been extended for 4 more years. The Petroleum Tank Release Compensation Board appropriation of $2.104 million for the biennium is on line 44 of the spreadsheet. The telecommunications appropriations are split over page 1 and 2. The total from the general fund is $2.018 million. That is shown on line 49. and a total of $3.22 million from the Telecommunications Access Fund is appropriated for the purposes on lines 51 through 54. There's a $2.34 million appropriation to the Commission of Deaf, Blind, and Hard of Hearing Individuals. That represents a $740,000 increase for the biennium over the base funding amount. $580,000 is for coordinating technology. $100,000 is for a grant to the Minnesota IT Services Department, and $200,000 is for the Legislative Coordinating Commission to provide closed captioning coverage. And rounding out the bill is the appropriation to the Public Utilities Commission. This is all from the general fund, and it is on line 98 on page 2. The appropriation for the biennium is $14.93 million. And that concludes the spreadsheet.
Okay. Mr. Mum, does this meet our budget targets and conform to our budget rules?
Madam Chair and members, this does conform to the budget rules. However, due to a fiscal note that was received about an hour ago showing a reduction in general fund revenue due to the VoIP policy language in the bill, it does not meet the target. And that line is not shown on the spreadsheet, but there is a fiscal note, and I don't know if copies have been distributed, but the cost associated with the note shown for the Public Utilities Commission is a non-recoverable expense that the commission cannot recover through their assessment authority, and would be tracked as a decrease in general fund revenue when incorporated into the spreadsheet.
Senator Osmic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd actually like to sort of touch on that for just a moment. Until an hour ago, we didn't believe we had an imbalance here, and I'd sort of like the department to come up and explain why last time we had this bill, it seemed like there was a savings, and now suddenly there's a rather large cost involved. So if the department has some people available that can talk to this, I'd appreciate it. So there's certainly a discrepancy versus the last biennium.
Okay. Senator Laurie.
Madam Chair, we don't have the fiscal note to the best of my knowledge. It was just described as a fairly large cost. Maybe somebody could just say what the dollar amount we're talking about is that we're possibly out of balance.
Absolutely. Senator Laurie, I think we'll bring up the department, either Commissioner Rothman or Deputy Commissioner Grant. Whoever would like to speak to this, please.
Madam Chair,
Senator Benson.
could we have council orient as to where in the bill we're,
It is Article 2, Section 13
thank you, Madam Chair.
in the bill itself. Thank you, Senator Benson. Mr. Grant, welcome.
Madam Chair and committee members, Bill Grant for the Department of Commerce. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to speak to the PUC's fiscal note, but from the perspective of our fiscal note, the thing that we're looking at is that as we transition from traditional telephone regulation to VoIP in a situation where we won't be regulating in those areas, many of the companies will be at various stages along that transition path. And it's going to be a case-specific situation for us to determine under what conditions they are regulated and under what conditions they're not regulated. That is the reason why we're showing a 2 FTE increase in the early years, but as that transition is completed, we move then back to base funding or base FTE levels, and eventually then, as the transition is completed, to a lower staffing level in that division.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grant. And members, there is action to get that fiscal note over here. Like I said, this happened fairly recently. We can move on, but for right now, Senator Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioner Grant, so is the fiscal note caused by the transition of people from traditional landline to VoIP, or is the need for 2 FTEs caused by this particular language. Your testimony was ambiguous on that point.
Mr. Grant?
Madam Chair and Senator Benson, it is the transition to VoIP that is causing the increase in.
Madam Chair.
Senator Benson.
That appears to be a market activity, something outside the control of the legislature and outside the control of this bill.
But,
Mr. Grant?
Madam Chair and Senator Benson, it is the bill that is deregulating VoIP. But for that, we would continue to staff in the traditional manner.
Senator Benson? Okay. And we are going to bring Mr. Wolf up from the PUC. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Mr. Dan
Madam
Wolf?
Chair, Dan
Welcome.
Wolf, the Executive Secretary at the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission. The comments of Mr. Grant are very similar to the methodology used for this fiscal note as well. The staff has identified the need for a half of an FTE for each, for both the consumer protocols and procedures dealing with this transition, as well as the implementation of the TAP and 911 fees. So it does identify one additional FTE in the upcoming biennium, but then that phases back out in the out biennium, the third and fourth year.
So, Mr. Wolf, I do have to ask you, this bill has been out for quite a while. What was the delay in getting a fiscal note? We honestly did not know until just recently.
Madam Chair, yes, the staff I know has been coordinating with the department. They've been working on that, and we just got a draft of that this afternoon, and we sped that up. I would say that in addition, I know it's not the subject of this conversation, but the language regarding the co-ops and munis, we actually would show a 1/2 FTE decrease. And so we, in this bill, we appreciate Senator Osmic has funded us at the base, and we are happy to stay at that base. I think the more important aspect that fiscal staff has identified is how to recover the assessment for the work being done. So the work of the commission might be increasing a little bit in the short term, and we can live with that. I think for target purposes, the fact that we could not recover the assessments for the work that we do from the deregulated companies creates a problem for the general fund. And I don't know if fiscal staff could identify some language that might afford that authority to continue those assessments despite the VoIP language, or, I don't want to start getting into policy. I don't know how that would all work. But for us, the fiscal note is showing the impact on the general fund because of that decreased assessment authority.
Right. That's a problem. Okay, so I think what we'll do is wait until the fiscal note is in our hands. Senator Osmic, thank you. Mr. Wolf, appreciate that. And then we'll probably come back to this. I think what we'll do is entertain a discussion and amendments. And Senator Osmic, is there something else? You have another oral amendment too, is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, I actually have two separate amendments I'd like to get on, and then I'm certainly willing to take any additional amendments. I
Okay.
would appreciate an individual moving the A14 amendment.
Senator Benson moves the A14 amendment. And we are distributing it right now. So Senator Osmic, while it's being distributed, you could start deleting section 8, looks like, on page 8.
Yes, Madam
What does
Chair.
that do?
That is section 8 of the bill being removed. Madam Chair, this would be the Laurentian, or sometimes generally spoken to as the Laurentian amendment. It actually applies to more than just them. And what the intent is that Senator Tomassoni already had this bill and is on our general orders that the bill would ride separately and not inside of this bill. This is a policy provision that I think certainly some members who don't like policy inside of an omnibus bill would appreciate, but we're going to have that ride by itself at this point.
Okay. Questions, discussion on the A14 amendment? Senator Westrom?
Madam Chair, Senator Osmic, can you just expand a little bit more on that? And is this also language that deals with fiber Min plant in Benson, Minnesota?
Senator Osmic.
Madam Chair, Senator Weber, or Senator Westrom, yes, this would affect the plant in, I believe it's Benson, Minnesota.
Okay.
There's a biomass. This was an accommodation so that a nuclear-powered energy generating plant utility, which that pretty much narrows it all down, would be able to do renegotiations with the biomass, with 3 different biomass. On my understanding, it's only 3. That they would be able to renegotiate those contracts. So at this point in time, we want to see that policy just right on its own to the Senate floor. It would not be part of this bill.
Senator Westrom.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Senator Cohen?
Madam Chair and Senator Osmic, just a brief question, and maybe this has been done previously. Not quite sure I've seen it, but that's in the cooperative section 3 of the bill, where you direct the
Senator
PUC.
Cohen, we are on the A14 amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay,
apologize.
no problem, we'll get to
I was
that.
thinking,
ma'am. Yeah,
all
thank
right.
you. So no further questions. Senator Benson renews her motion on the A14 amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The A14 amendment is adopted. So Senator Cohen.
Okay, now if I could have a question on the A14 amendment, is that in order? Or? So, sorry. I apologize, Madam Chair, for, I thought we had voted on the amendment. So, Senator Osmic, let me start again. On Section 3 of the bill, the cooperative section, I'm not sure I've seen this before, and maybe I have, but in subdivision C, where we direct the PUC to stop an investigation. Have we done that before in statute, where we've directed the commission to stop whatever they're doing in quite this way?
Senator Osmic.
Madam Chair, Senator Cohen, in my short time here at the legislature, I can't say that there was that period of time. I can't say that that hasn't happened. I think the PUC would probably be able to better answer that question.
Is that possible, Madam Chair, to ask Mr. Wolf to
Absolutely.
offer a
Mr.
little bit
Wolf.
of history?
Madam Chair and committee members, Dan Wolf again.
Mr. Wolf.
Senator Cohen, in my relatively short 7 years of the commission, I don't recall that has happened either. Again, like Senator Osmic, I can't say that that's never happened, but it's not in the time that I've been there.
So,
Senator Cohen.
Madam Chair, if I could inquire of Senator Osmic, between yourself and Mr. Wolf, we were not aware of this happening previously. Why are we doing it in this instance? Why this particular direction, if this is something that's fairly unique in terms of legislative directives?
Mr. Wolf or Senator Osmic.
I guess it's my bill, so I'll speak to it. Thank you, Madam Chair, Senator Cohen. I think it's coverall so that once we put this into place, it also stops any possible action that might be taking place at the point of enactment. I think it's, once again, the whole point of the Muni co-op legislation is to not have them under the oversight of PUC, and that would stop any additional actions from being taken at that point in time.
Senator Cohen.
So, Madam Chair and Senator Osmic, if the legislation overrides what the PUC is doing or not doing, do we actually need this language in the bill then?
Senator Osmic.
Madam Chair, Senator Cohen, I believe the answer is yes to that. My preference would be to have it in the bill because I think it clarifies that the legislature is saying that any additional activity that may be happening has to come to an end. Keep in mind that there's certainly always legal actions that can still be taking place with the munis and co-ops. In my understanding, I think I'd rather have Senator Weber speak to that. He's not in the room, but I can certainly have him ask him these questions. But this was the bill that we had on the floor previously.
So,
Senator Cohen.
So, Madam Chair, just another quick comment, Senator Osmic, and this is not, so I understand your position, and I don't, I've not been involved with the PUC, and I'm looking at this now as a practitioner. I've not done administrative work, for instance. But if the legislature were to pass something that may or may not impact, say, current litigation, it's possible, depending on what the particular statute might be that it might not be retroactive, so it might only be prospective. But certainly if there is a legislative statute passed that's going to have an impact on some pending case, the presiding judge would take note of that and maybe take some other action in the context of what's going on in court. So that's why I'm wondering why, in this instance, we do it. I understand what your explanation is, but it just seems to me that it's a little bit unusual.
Senator Boswick? Okay. So with that, Senator Osmic, you have another amendment?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like an individual to put forth the A10 amendment, please.
A10. Senator Benson moves the A10 amendment. That will be passed out. Is that something that can be explained as it's
Yep.
being passed out? Senator Benson or Senator Osmic?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly can't go through it as it's coming out. This is what Senate File, this is an amended version of Senate File 214. This is the Renewable Developments Fund retasking and retooling to a legislative oversight fund. I'll sort of wait, it's starting to come out, and I can speak to it, but this is something that's been amended. We've already gone through committee, and it's my intention to include it in the omnibus bill. The major changes would be, starting on page 1, line 113, we would be changing the administration of the Made in Minnesota Solar Production Incentive Program. These first two sections are section 1, lines 1.9 through 1.29 are technical changes so that we can continue to fund the third-party evaluation and all of the activity that currently happens with the Renewable Development RDF Board. Right now, the RDF Board has some, and as well as Commerce. Right now, the Commerce and the RDF Board have some portions of funding that they need to do to act as they do right now. Particularly on line 1.22, it talks about a third-party expert evaluation. The RDF Board, as it's currently configured today, uses a third party to go through grant processes, so we want to leave that intact. On page 2, Article 3, this removes the Made Minnesota provisions, and it ends the program. Keep in mind that in my the Made Minnesota program is currently funded this grant cycle, so it would honor everything that we have committed to from a state point aspect, but end the Made in Minnesota program effective the end of this grant cycle. On page 3, we rename the Renewable Development Fund into what's called a Grid Modernization Account. Creates a new fund that is under legislative control, not through authorization by the PUC, and it transfers funds to the legislature so that we would actually be managing that fund. Going to page 4, that on lines 411 through 413, that provides the Made in Minnesota runout, as well as for 2 additional smaller funds or smaller grants that are currently underway. We want to make sure that we keep everyone whole and what we have committed to as the legislature. Going lower on page 4, we start to redefine what can be, what the account can be used for, and it better clarifies and starts to focus the new grid modernization fund to be more broad in encouraging grid modernization that is included but not limited to the implementation of electricity storage, load control, distribution management, smart metering technology, as well as to stimulate other innovative projects to reduce demand and increase system efficiency and flexibility. It gives more flexibility to the soon-to-be named Renewable Developments Fund, which we're going to find here later on this amendment. It gives them the ability to be more flexible in what they're looking at. Again, it's to focus on stability, modernization, and efficiency, and reducing the demand, which is really the core values of what the RDF fund was developed for in the first place. Line 5.4, this provides that grants can be made within or benefit the service territory of the utility that owns the nuclear generation plant. In other words, this allows flexibility so that the new grid modernization fund can fund projects that may be outside the service area, which let's just call it the Xcel service area, that may actually benefit the Xcel ratepayers, whether it be through efficiency, modernization, et cetera, which I just went through. Starting on line 1.15, we make the changes to the board. The board itself, the RDF board itself.
Senator Osmic, 5.15.
Sorry, 5.15. That's where we begin to change the name of the Renewable Developments Fund Board to the Grid Modernization Board. And that's really the majority of that page. The RDF board is staying the same. Their mission stays the same. Their funding stays the same. Ultimately, this bill, when we get to the end of it, all it does is take the PUC out, because right now, everything that the RDF board recommends and the grant individuals that work for them recommend goes to the PUC for blessing. While the blessing no longer will go to the PUC, it will come to the legislature, where we actually will legislate the programs that are recommended to us by the RDF board. So the remainder of the page really goes into that discussion. Turning to page 6, again, we talk about the Grid Modernization Advisory Group, and it's specifically on page 6, on line 6, that the expenditures from this account must be appropriated by law. This is a philosophical position that I have taken, is that if we are going to use the RDF money, which in my opinion is a tax on the casks that we have at Prairie Island and Monticello, and we could debate whether that's a fee or a tax, but if we are responsible and we are legislatively appropriating and having that money extracted from ratepayers, that the legislature should be the ones responsible for saying whether we should spend it on programs or not. That's the ultimate reason for this bill in the first place. And then going through to page 8, it runs out the Made in Minnesota program on line 8.12. It runs out Made in Minnesota effective May 2017, which is the end of the grant cycle. And then on page 9, on 9.10, that also runs out the Made in Minnesota solar thermal, as well as repealers required to make this happen. Again, members, the focus here is to bring accountability to the legislature. And we could certainly talk about whether it's a good thing that the legislature is responsible for the spending. I think it is, because if we are not spending money out of the RDF fund, or now the new renewables fund that I'm proposing here, if we're not responsible for it, who is? We shouldn't make it the Public Utilities Commission. It should be something that we legislate, because we're telling Xcel and we're forcing this upon the ratepayers that to spend or to extract this money from them. So with that, members, I will answer questions.
You have $100,000 to administer the solar Made in Minnesota, $200,000 for a third-party expert evaluation of the grid modernization, thank you, and then $10 million for the triple IRB. Is that correct? Can you tell me how much is in the RDF fund?
I'm sure my friends from Xcel are here. I believe the number is well over $30 million, and all of those would be coming directly from the RDF, or what's now called the Grid Modernization Fund.
So if we
It is above the number that I am proposing to spend out.
So if we can get a correct amount on that, that'd be great.
Sure.
Senator Champion, in the meantime?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Osmic, I have two questions. One is, this bill, this amendment appears to be full of policy language. And so my first question is, why are we now taking it up in the Finance Committee as opposed to this amendment going through the policy committee first?
Senator Osmek?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Champion, this is already on the plate of the Finance Committee. It's already been referred to the Finance Committee, so I thought that putting it inside of my omnibus bill, which is in the Finance Committee, made sense.
Senator Champion?
Senator Osmek, but didn't your entire omnibus bill go through your policy committee first, and why wouldn't you put it there, have them do it at that level as opposed to now bringing it to us here? So I'm sure that you'll answer that question, but I may as well ask the second question. I also see on page 9 that you have a number of repealers in section 8. So can you please go through what you have in section 8 and tell us what you are repealing?
Senator Osmek?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Champion, it did go through my policy and finance division. It left earlier than my budget bill itself and was already directed to finance. It was my intent originally to have it ride by itself, but at this point in time, I thought it better to include, because it's got it, both of them are in finance, it makes more sense from my perspective that it be included. As far as the repealers go, Senator Champion, section 9 is number 8, I'm sorry, section 8, the repealers, repeals state statutes that provides funds to the University of Minnesota Institute for Renewable Energy. They haven't, if memory serves me correctly, they haven't been using this money to begin with. So it simply takes out that provision, because if you're not spending the money, why should we be leaving it in the system? Paragraph B repeals statutes requiring any solar panels installed by the Department of Transportation to be made in Minnesota panels. So if we're no longer going to have Made in Minnesota, we shouldn't be telling the Department of Transportation that there are panels called Made in Minnesota panels. And then paragraph C requires that all solar photovoltaic appropriated with money in this act qualify as Made in Minnesota. That language is being stripped out because, once again, Made in Minnesota is no longer a program, so therefore we strip that out of law.
Senator Champion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Osmek, did the University of Minnesota have an opportunity to speak to whether this statute that repeals the renewable energy provisions, did they have an opportunity to come in and talk about it?
Senator Osmek?
Madam Chair, Senator Champion, the bill was posted. This was part of the original bill. The University of Minnesota never contacted me. I didn't necessarily go out and specifically ask them for their commentary. But considering the fact that they haven't been using the money, I think it's.
Expired on June 11th.
And Ms. Carlin, being efficient that she is, is already showing me that the actual statutory language expired in 2011 anyway. So even if they wanted to spend the money, they can't, because the statute authority has expired.
Okay. Senator Marty?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Osmek did have, I don't know whose bill this was originally, but when this was presented in your committee, I suggested that several years ago, when the last time we had a big energy bill, that if the House Chair at that time and I had decided to try and take $27-some million a year from Xcel and its ratepayers, a fund that they have, that they agreed to do, and it was negotiated 20-some years ago as part of the agreement on storing dry casks, agreement that was made with the Prairie Island Tribe and with the state and Xcel, that if the state was to take this money from them, from Xcel and its ratepayers, that you would have attacked it as being a tax. I would argue that this is a mandated fund that we had them set up as part of the deal, but that if we do convert it, if we do take it for the state legislature to spend, it does truly become a tax. And I do not think that that's a wise choice. The one example, and again, I don't recall that this was your bill originally, maybe it was, but the one example you or whoever the author was used was the Made in Minnesota project, that was a case where the money was not well spent. And it struck me that Senator Rosen, I think 6-7 years ago, you and some others put together a new process for dealing with the Renewable Development Fund. I thought a reasonable process. And the one example you've been using of how the money's not been well spent was one where the legislature grabbed the money out of that process and out of that fund and decided we're going to spend it. And the solution to that one illustration you gave was, so let's grab all the money. And I'm not sure that that's a wise choice, and I think it is realistically, we are taking that money out of an Excel fund, that Excel has membership in the task of the panel that makes recommendations and puts together a plan. I think there are a lot of reasons for not doing this, but largely, I'd make it that the illustration you gave for why we should do this, you're saying, well, the legislature stuck its hands in there and took some of the money out and led to bad results, so let's take it all. And I just think that you're solving the wrong problem there. And in addition, I think there are some letters I see in our packets. I see one from Wabasha, one from Winona. I think I saw one from Minneapolis, of businesses who say that if you shut down the program right now, they were saying they were willing to shut it down with the understanding that we should be working for a replacement program like the Excel Solar Rewards program, which I would argue spends the money more efficiently for similar purposes, that we're going to be laying off, and I think some of these companies said in testimony at your committee, they would be laying off people. Yes, the bill doesn't lay them off in the middle of this grant cycle, but if it's going to be laying them off at the end of this year, they are going to be laying off employees. So I think, one, it's going to cost jobs. Two, and the solar industry has been growing very fast in Minnesota. It's been very helpful for a lot of electrical workers, for a lot of construction folks. It's been very good. And here we're going to take that money out of this Excel fund, which again was an agreed upon fund that Excel didn't like it, but they agreed to it. And those dry casks aren't going away anywhere in the near future, and we are taking the fund away and saying that we as a legislature are going to spend it. So I strongly oppose this on a variety of reasons and urge members to reject this and ask for roll call as well.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Westrom.
Madam Chair, Senator Osmek, a couple of questions regarding the Made in Minnesota Solar. What exactly are we all rolling back, and how many companies are we offering or paying this incentive to currently in Minnesota? And I think this was Senator Tomassoni's. I know there's one up in Iron Range in his area, but what's his view on this? Because are we changing the direction for a company, or what are they making now? If you can give us just a little more background on that and who else it would affect, I'd appreciate that.
Senator Osmek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Westrom, the origination of this was 10 million, if memory serves me, 15 million. That went to Silicon Energy on the Iron Range, I think in Virginia. And you'll note that inside the bill, there's $10 million for assistance to retool and retask that actual facility. Right now, the biggest issue in the Made Minnesota repeal is, as Senator Marty somewhat alluded to, was that the incentive packages for very expensive solar is being eliminated. Let's not kid ourselves on what we're subsidizing with the Made Minnesota program. We are incentivizing the most expensive per kilowatt hour solar that we have in Minnesota, and we're subsidizing it very heavily. By repealing this and coming up with additional programs, which Senator Marty will admit that I have said specifically when we heard this bill, it is my intent through Legislative Energy Commission, if necessary, to come up with a new program. The idea of also funding more money to perhaps provide another one-year bridge through the Excel Solar Rewards program is certainly a viable and interesting option. I haven't actually included that in this bill at this point in time, but we are actually incentivizing the wrong behavior. We should be incentivizing cost-effective solar, which can more broadly spread out our Renewable Development Fund money to more people to get solar. I'd also say that the RDF board is going to maintain its current configuration, and because of this, I believe they will come up with a better program. But the first thing we have to do is get out of the Made in Minnesota provisions and program before we can actually create the new program. And this bridge allows those installers and electricians, at least for this grant cycle, to stay in place while we can put forth another program. And it may be possible before we get to the floor that we may have an additional component or RDF spend that maybe we do provide money to Excel for their solar rewards program to give that additional bridge. But short answer is we need to stop funding the most expensive residential solar and look for better ways to spend that RDF money.
Senator Westrom? Senator Westrom, if you could turn on your microphone too, that would help. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Could you repeat that, please?
Senator Osmic, the 10 million, is that coming out of the RDF then? And is that going to be funding incentives going forward? Or is it just 10 million one time going to the plant? And what are they going to do with that?
Senator Osmic?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Westrom, the 10 million is separate from the amendment that I'm doing really right now. The 10 million is a specific payout from the Renewable Developments Fund to retool and retask the Silicon Energy location on the Iron Range, which will be able to bring in, which the reason for the 10 million and specifically that amount of money is to bring in a Canadian firm that is willing to take over that facility, provide jobs on the Iron Range, and they need this additional incentive to retool and get that facility to a point where it can produce solar cells on the Iron Range. So it's to change and to get, because right now my understanding is Silicon Energy is producing nothing at this point. Matter of fact, they're in debt.
Senator Westrom?
So, Madam Chair, Senator Osmic, the incentive, is it being paid to other companies, or is it just the Silicon company on the range right now? And I guess that's, I'm just concerned. What you said we're funding till the end of the grant cycle. Is that how many months or years is that? And I'm not following all of these things. And then I got a question about the RDF after that.
Senator Osmic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Westrom, I think you're mixing up two different issues. One is we've got the Made in Minnesota current provisions that we're spinning down effective this grant cycle. So that's a separate portion of the RDF that's being spent. The 10 million is specifically going to Silicon Energy, or to that facility. I'm trying to find the section that we specifically have that in. 3. No. The 10 million that we're talking about for the RDF spend is in section 3 that transfers this money as a one-time transfer, and it sends it to the IRRB. So that is intended to be used for Silicon Energy for the retask and retool of I'm sorry, it's intended to go to the specific fund, which is Fund 280, for business development for that Silicon Energy account location. So you've got two different issues here that are moving in play. One is the Made Minnesota spin down that's going to be fully funded for this grant cycle, and then you have the 10 million that's going to the IRRB for Silicon Energy so that we get a Canadian firm to come down and actually start creating something.
Senator Westrom.
So, Madam Chair and Senator Osmic, are we not spending any of that incentive money now then, if they're not in business? And what the 10 million, is that ultimately coming from the RDF fund, which we're dealing with this in an amendment, or is that general fund? You'd mentioned something about the RDF being a source of future payments for incentives of solar or other things, and I'm trying to figure out where the money's coming from and how they're connected.
Senator Osborne.
Madam Chair, Senator Westrom, the RDF money that I've talked about for future incentives is coming just specifically, would be coming from the new fund that I'm creating. It's the RDF fund under legislative control. So they're quite two separate entities. I'm trying to understand your question as far as, you know, we're not spending anything that I'm talking about going forward, such as investing more money into solar rewards. As far as any new programs, I've even thought, I thought about probably something for governmental entities to incentivize solar on rooftops for governmental facilities. This is all to be named later, whether it comes from the reconfigured Renewable Developments Fund or Renewable Developments Fund Committee or RDF Committee, or from perhaps even the suggestions from the Legislative Energy Commission.
Senator Westrom.
Madam Chair, Senator Osmick, the RDF fund, I'm going to ask you to explain that a little bit more with this new modernization account, but I do want to just, for the record, maybe clarify the RDF, your characterization of the RDF fund, I don't think is exactly accurate. And so that's, I'm not sure how I'll vote on this amendment at this point, because I see we're doing a lot here, and the whole purpose was to help advance and research renewable energies, which was part of the trade-off for the nuclear storage of the waste in Minnesota, which at the time the bill was passed, there was a great belief that Yucca Mountain was going to take the waste, and that $500,000 a cask would be would go away at the point of time that the waste transported out to the mountain storage facility that the federal government was moving ahead with, and that since has not happened. And so that's a little more of the background on where the legislation came from and the purpose of the RDF. I'm not saying modernization of the grid may or may not be a good thing, but it wasn't what the RDF fund was originally set up for. And so
Senator Osmick.
I'm just trying to wrap my mind around where all that money's going and what we're reconfiguring here.
Senator Osmick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Westrom, I would point to page 4 on lines 27 through 33. What we're doing is we're changing
on the amendment,
on the amendment itself. Actually, it starts on 4.23. We start to strike language that talks about market penetration, promoting startup and expansion. We really start to focus it on modernization that stimulates economic development of renewable electric energy technologies. That's really what the purpose of the fund was to begin with. So I don't think I'm straying from the original intent. And then there's an addition, a new section 2 that encourages grid modernization, which is including but not limited to projects that implement storage, electric storage, load control, distribution management, and smart metering technologies. So I think and then there's on section 3 on page 5, or line 5.1, is to stimulate other innovative energy products that reduce demand and increase system efficiency and flexibility. Senator Westrom, I don't think it necessarily strays from its original intent. I think we're just updating this so that we have, we approach the 21st century a little bit, because this is, the language has been there for 20-some years. I think this gives us more flexibility, especially when you're looking at the implementing electricity storage types of programs. I think that gives us flexibility in promoting, and that would be in addition to whether it be wind or solar or whatever the case might be. It gives us more of an ability to invest in other technologies that may supplement the current green energies, so to speak, that we currently have. So I don't think we're necessarily straying from the intent. I think the whole point of this is to modernize what we have on state statutes, as well as bring it under legislative control, so that, Senator Westrom, when you and I are here, we vote on what we are going to do with that fund. Because I think if we're taking the money from the ratepayers, by my own philosophy, we should be accountable to them, and it is something we legislatively are taking from the Excel ratepayers, and I think we should be held in account for that.
Senator
Madam-
Westrom.
Madam
follow-up.
Chair, Senator Osmer, your first reference, was it line 4.2, did you say?
Madam Chair, Senator Westrom, line
Senator Osmer.
4.23, it's where it starts through
I'll look
page
at that.
5 at the beginning.
Go ahead with other questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Marty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Westrom, this was originally pushed to help that one plant on the Iron Range. It's a $15 million program for 10 years, and it did accomplish one thing, and that was getting other businesses. I think there were 4 that were eligible with Made in Minnesota products. I think 3 of them are still in existence, one of which is now considering buying that plant on the Iron Range. So there are manufacturers that are manufacturing panels that qualify for this. The jobs that would be lost right now would be, I assume, primarily in the solar installation field. One of the handouts here says they're, I'm assuming this came from the solar industry folks. It says 495 jobs are directly result of this bill, and I know we had, I don't know if it was this Wabasha or the Winona Company, or one of them said that if this shut down this year or next year, they would be laying off their employees. I don't know if that was 10 or 20 people, but at least 1 or 2 of the companies said they would be laying off people, and I would guess significant number would, because they were planning on 10 years. We're 3 years into it. I guess this is the 4th year, but I think they recognize that it wasn't the best way of doing it, and I think they said if they had a 3-year phase out or 2-year phase out, but shutting it down at the end of this year, basically they're going to be laying off people. It is worth pointing out that Section 3 in the bill, that was put in, I think, as an amendment on the day this bill passed out of committee. I had not seen it as a bill or anything until then, this $10 million to IRRB, because that plant up north failed, and this would be apparently to rebuild it or pay off debt, or I'm not sure what, but this is 10 million more that would come from Renewable Development Fund to fix that one. And again, that leads me to the whole question, when legislators are basically earmarking projects they like, I think it causes problems, and that's why I think the Renewable Development Fund and the process was set up about 8 years ago is a good one, and we ought to stick to that instead of taking over the whole process, because I think you're going to have more, if anything, we could have more problems like what we had in this case, and this $10 million, again, may be a good thing. The plant will be, I believe it's going to be turned over to another solar manufacturer to manufacture panels up there, and that's good. But the whole way this worked, again, Xcel has their solar rewards program. They're basically paying you a certain amount per kilowatt hour, so the cheaper your rooftop solar is, the more you get out of it. The way the Made in Minnesota program was, the more expensive your panels were, the more you get paid. And in effect, I think the first year, the per kilowatt hour charge for that one plant on the range was, I think, like 23 cents for a rooftop residential per kilowatt hour. The next year, I think it jumped to 37 cents. So you can see why the program was not a well-designed one, but that's why I'd argue the legislature should not be taking over it. Instead, we should phase out that program, but not in 1 year. Give it 2 years, give it a year from now, so the manufacturers have a chance to, and the installers and everybody have a chance to find new things, because I think the Renewable Development Fund could easily use that $15 million a year for a more efficient program, whether it's Xcel Solar Rewards program or some other one like that. I think we could get a lot more solar installed for a lot cheaper that way. But turning it over to the legislature, and one more thing, Senator Osmek, when you were saying we're changing it from the renewable development, which is what it was meant for renewable energy development, and changing it to grid modernization. I agree we should do things for grid modernization. I think there's a lot of potential there, but to say that's not a change in what was agreed to with the Prairie Island Tribe and what was agreed to between the state and Xcel Energy, I think it's a stretch to say that's just an update. I think the people who are working in renewable energy would say you're going to shut down their industry and turn it over to somebody else. I don't think they'd say it's the same thing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Osmic, my understanding when we started this Made in Minnesota Solar was that it was a 10-year commitment, and that's what a lot of people believed and why they started their businesses. And they built their businesses on that commitment. And I have letters from several businesses who are saying if we pull the rug out from under them, that there's a lot of people in small towns in rural Minnesota that are going to lose their jobs. It seems to me that we are discontinuing an incentive for Made in Minnesota, putting small businesses in dire straits while providing $10 million incentive for a Canadian firm to come and build in Minnesota. So we're not going to give money to our citizens in Minnesota. We're going to give it to some Canadians to come here and do business.
Senator Rosen, Senator Eaton, those are, I think you might want to consider what you're saying because those are going to be Iron Range jobs. That money is to retask and retool that facility going through the IRRB. I'm not sure that the bags of money are going to be flowing across the border to the Canadian company, but that is to actually make that facility an operable facility with a significant amount of jobs on the Iron Range. I appreciate the fact that you're concerned about small businesses. We can certainly talk about that on other bills. But the issue here is we are incentivizing the most expensive solar through the Made in Minnesota program. I, during this process, originally was having Made in Minnesota run out effective before this grant cycle. However, I did listen to the installers. I did listen to their concerns and felt that it was reasonable to allow an extension, if only because they have inventory that they have purchased, which qualifies under Made in Minnesota. I think that at some point in time, you have to say the end of the program is here. And because people are making decisions, you can't believe that government is always going to be doing the same thing. I think we are doing a disservice for the people of Minnesota or the Xcel ratepayers in particular by spending that money on the most expensive solar and subsidizing the most expensive solar projects in the state. And it's simply, I don't believe we should be doing that. So I appreciate your comments.
Senator Eaton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Senator Osmic, I guess I have more concern about the small towns in outstate Minnesota than I do worrying about whether a Canadian company can buy a business in Minnesota. I understand the range has job issues, but we were already out the $15 million from the last project and with no chance of return or recoup. And I also think that saying this about solar is kind of ironic since we subsidize corn and ethanol to a much more greater extent, and it is much less efficient than solar.
Yeah, Senator Osmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Eaton, I just point out to the previous $15 million, I didn't vote for it, you did.
Senator Champion.
Madam Chair, perhaps this is more of a comment than a question. I think we've been listening for quite some time here, and I'm not on the environmental committee or any of that. But this proves the fact, from my vantage point, that this is why this amendment should not be before us, that it should be housed and debated and discussed in the appropriate committee. And if the omnibus bill traveled a little faster than what the author wanted, I do understand that, but I still think that that is the proper place of space for it.
Senator Osmer. Okay.
Madam Chair, seeing
Senator
certain
Osmer.
difficulties with the amendment, and I certainly still believe that this is the right thing to do for Minnesota. And Senator Benson is not here.
She is on a phone call. We will get her right now. Yeah.
I'd certainly appreciate her to remove the amendment so that we can certainly take this up as the standalone bill. I'm very disappointed that we can't include it. But I'm willing to at least let a certain level of peace in the valley take place.
Senator Osmic, that we will get that motion deleted here. Okay. Senator Western moves to lay the A10 amendment on the table. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion prevails. A10 is on the table. Back to the bill. Senator Western, do you know what you just did? Okay, good. Senator Marty.
Madam Chair, thank you for setting that aside. Senator Osmic, these are, as we discussed in your committee, I think you have some good provisions in the bill, and actually a number, not too many, but a number of policy provisions, some of which are good, some of which are not appropriate. But I would argue that we are getting to the stage closer and closer to the phase where we're going to have 10 bills a year, one for each, or however many budget divisions we have. We're going to have the omnibus budget and policy bills, and some year we tighten them up more and more. We'll have one big bill. We can all vote in favor of the bill for 2018 and vote it up or down, depending if we like the mix of budget and policy or not. I think it's very unaccountable. And I think the governor's expressed concern about policy and the budget bills. And I think the simplest thing to do is let them go ahead and separate bills. A lot of your provisions in here, the policy provisions you have traveling as separate bills. And so I'm going to move to amend out the policy provisions, which to me it looks like it would be the rest of Article 2 except for Section 9. So I'd move to strike Article 2, Sections 1 through, I think we already took out 8, 1 through 7, and 10 through the end. And that's, and again, I'm not making the case. I strongly object to some of those. I strongly support some of them, but I think they should be traveling on their own and should get their own debate. And so I'll move that and ask for roll call.
Senator Marty moves to delete Article 2, Sections 1 through 7, and 10 through 14. A roll call has been requested. A roll call will be granted. Discussion on the motion. The clerk will take the roll. The chair votes no.
Senator Benson?
No.
Senator Champion?
Yes.
Senator Cohen? Yes. Senator Eden?
Yes.
Senator Fischbach?
No.
Senator Ingebrigtsen?
No.
Senator Limmer?
No.
Senator Lori?
Yes.
Senator Marty?
Yes.
Senator Nelson? Senator Newman?
No.
Senator Westrom? Senator Nelson?
There being 5 yeses, 7 noes, the motion does not prevail. Senator Osmic, or further amendments? Okay, so yes, members, we do have the fiscal note for the VoIP, and it's ready to be passed out. Senator Osmic, do you have one yet?
Madam Chair. This is, again, this is late breaking to us. This is somewhat of a surprise in the, an hour before the hearing that we were hit with a significant general fund impact. I don't believe that we have the resources available, and certainly not in my bill. I had a zero target to be able to invest into this. We've sort of had the discussion already, I believe, with Mr. Grant was here. And I would leave that to the committee, how to fund this. This was not something that I believed was going to happen. If before it came out of committee that we had this fiscal note, we probably would have dealt with it there. I would certainly, if the committee feels that this is not within your budget constraints, and unless there's money in the commerce budget that can backfill into it, I think there's probably no alternative but to take it out.
Thank you, Senator Osmic. I have been given counsel to delete the sections that deal with VoIP, so if we could have Ms. Fontaine please come up and go through those sections. We can deal with this bill at another time with this fiscal note. Ms. Fontaine?
Yes. Madam Chair and members, the sections from Senate File 1742, Senator Ruud's VoIP bill, are sections 11 on page 10, section 12, and section 13 of the bill.
Okay, thank
So
you.
sections 10, 11, 11, 12, and 13.
11, 12, 13, okay. Any discussions on that? Senator?
Madam Chair, would you slow down a little bit here?
Sure, absolutely.
Madam
Ms.
Chair
Fontaine.
and Senator Ingebretson, on page 10, sections 11, definition of voice over internet protocol service, section 12, internet protocol enabled service definition, and then section 13, voice over internet protocol service and internet protocol enabled service. So those three sections would be removed. Those are from Senator Ruud's Senate File 1742.
Senator Marty moves the removal of section 11, section 12, and section 13. Further discussion on that?
Madam Chair.
Senator Fischbach.
Madam Chair, I think Senator Laurie wants it in writing.
Madam Chair, I was teasing Senator Fischbach, said we could get another 20-minute history lesson if she requested all of Senator Marty's motions be in writing, just like we got on her bill. We all enjoyed that a lot.
Okay. Senator Fischbach. That would be plenty. Okay. Further questions on the removal of section 11, section 12, and section 13? Senator Marty renews his question on that oral amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion prevails. So that section is removed. Any further amendments? Oh, yes, and we would like to have Commissioner Rothman from the Department of Commerce come up to testify, please.
Madam Chair, thank you. My remarks will be a little bit shorter now. But first of all, let me start off, as I had said with Senator Dames, that I really greatly appreciate the work with Senator Osmic, our staffs working together, doing a lot of things behind. I do greatly appreciate some of the governor's budget recommendations haven't been included in the proposal. Many have not been, and thus we request careful consideration to those that have not been included. Let me lightly touch upon the fact that the utility grid assessment extension was included. The utility grid assessment, the extension was made until June 30th of 2021, and that extension is helpful. Although the governor's recommendation was to do a full repeal of the sunset, we would still strongly encourage that. So hopefully we can have continuing dialogue. As to policy items that were not, or things that were not, budget items that were not included in the bill, there are a few that I'd like to just touch on. First of all, as you know, the Guaranteed Energy Savings Program, the GESP program, is a program that's helped to build better efficiency in Minnesota's public buildings. This one sort of boggles me. I'm just going to go off my notes here. I think it's a terrific program. I don't know how we can't make progress on the Guaranteed Energy Savings Program. It seems to be worth, it saves money, it builds into, the money comes out of the projects, it's not taxpayer funded, and this proposal was intended to just put a fee on the savings, and it just seemed to be a no-brainer. Second of all, we had the Healthy Air proposal, which is to remove asbestos insulation and remediate that from low-income homes. It was a modest proposal. It was only to help a few programs as a pilot project. And with that one, it just made a ton of sense to get that cancer-causing agent out of people's homes when we weatherize them. Again, not a lot of money. The third one is the increase to Minnesota's energy efficiency resource standard. That would have moved it from 1.5 to 2%, but only for electricity and not for natural gas. You know, the administration did a lot of work. It was this version 2.0 of Governor Palani's work that he had done in terms of what would be the next best thing for Minnesota's energy system. We just had a lot of debate here alone about, well, what does the future look like? But this one is the lowest hanging fruit, and it would have provided homeowner savings, businesses, and ratepayers, as well as increasing on average 1,500 jobs annually, 1,500 jobs annually to Minnesota's economy. And then lastly, I do want to, at least for the record, indicate that, as you know, the governor had already vetoed the Public Utilities Commission proposal on municipal electric utilities and rural electric cooperatives. As the governor had stated, eliminating the PUC's role would remove critical consumer protection for customers. So from the administration's perspective, adding a vetoed bill into this one, we just believe is inappropriate. So thank you, Madam Chair, and again, thank you to Senator Osmek for the work that we have done. In that spirit, we will continue to work with each other. Thank you.
Questions for the commissioner? Senator Ingebrigtsen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioner, you said, talking about spending dollars, it was a no-brainer spending dollars because the money didn't come from the public. Where does the money come from?
Senator Rothman, or Commissioner Rothman.
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Sorry.
Senator Ingebrigtsen, the Guaranteed Energy Savings Program is funded when a project is developed. And say it's just to simplify this. Well, actually, we have some great proposals. The City of Bemidji did this. They put in energy efficient lighting. The energy efficient lighting creates energy savings to Bemidji and to whoever does these projects. Those savings are converted into financing. So over a period of time, basically a financer comes up, steps forward and says, we'll front load the project, we'll pay for all the energy efficiency, and then get paid back over a period of time out of the savings for the energy efficiency. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Rothman.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Questions? Okay, with that, without any more questions or discussion, we will lay Senate File 1824 on the table. Thank you,
Madam Chair.
Senator Osmek.